Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you're streaming in from. We are just giving you a really warm welcome on this winter day. There's many of you joining us from the range and beyond, and we have this very exciting webinar today because we're going to learn from another large-scale collaboration effort, not on the snow leopard, but on a species that coexists with snow leopards, the Eurasian lynx. And it's this collaborative science initiative called the EUROLYNX, a network that has brought together researchers across Europe to study Eurasian lynx ecology in a coordinated way. And we're going to hear more about that from our speakers. We really value this as the Snow Leopard Network because it allows us to increase our shared learning and opportunity to think, okay, how can we maybe learn from these other coordinated efforts for snow leopard conservation. So I'm really pleased to introduce our speakers today. We have Marco Herrich, who's a wildlife ecologist working at the Bavarian Forest National Park and a professor in Germany and Norway. He chairs the EUROLYNX and has helped build it into a continent-wide collaborative effort. We also have Joe Premier, who's an ecologist at the Bavarian Forest National Park and serves as the EUROLYNX data curator. So he also plays a key role in the data exchange between and collaboration analysis of the network. So Marco and Joe, we're so pleased to have you here joining us today. Thank you for streaming in. So we're going to have Marco present first. And then after, we're going to hear from Joe if he has anything to add. And then we're going to go into a discussion. We have several people from this SLN steering committee that have streamed in, like Orion, who just turned off his camera. We also have Baera, who's the SLN steering committee member. So the steering committee of SLN is listening to this discussion, and we want to see, okay, are there any best practices or ideas that we could actually look at and implement for snow leopards as part of SLN. So just note that that's on our mind in the discussion, and I might steer the discussion towards that after your questions. So without any ado, I'm going to pass it over to Marco to share his screen, and please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for that kind invitation and introduction. So it's a pleasure for us to present our network and also the work we did in the recent years. So I will try to share. Yeah, maybe let's start with EUROLYNX. So this is EUROLYNX basically, and that is from our meeting which we had in France last year. And this is also a core of the initiative so that we have annual meetings. So most of the members are from Europe, and so it's easier to gather because the continent is not so big. But it's also a core to meet each year, to exchange and discuss the research output, and also to learn about what's going on with lynx conservation in the different countries. And first, I want to start with the EUROLYNX network and the databases. So what's the status? And EUROLYNX is not isolated. So we are part of EuroMammals. And there are different initiatives. So it started with the Euro roe deer and also then the Euro red deer, then the Euro boar joined in. And meanwhile, we have the Euro ibex and the Euro jackal and the Euro raccoon. And Joe and me, we are running with some other colleagues also the EUROLYNX and the Euro wildcat network. So both felids which are living in Europe are included also in the network. And maybe that's also interesting. There's also a group that's EFREMOVE, that's researchers working in Africa, which are also using the EuroMammals platform to store their data. Yeah, and this shows the spatial extension. So at the moment we have 54 members. The members are basically a research organization, but also conservation NGOs and also practitioners, which are working with the management of lynx in the different countries and from 22 countries. The point is what you see, if you compare the lynx distribution area with our network, you see we have a strong focus on Europe. It's just Turkey. And I saw also Dennis, who is in the audience. Hi, Dennis. And what we are missing is, of course, the rest of the range, which is probably 90% of the range. We have no members from there, and it would be also nice to get more contacts, maybe through the Snow Leopard network. Yeah, and this is the core. These are the databases and the data managers, like Joe, who is here. He's also a researcher working on lynx modeling, and the others are PhD students, which are also supporting the data curatorship. And at the moment, we have about 800 links in the databases. And from that, so the database is GPS data. From 200, we have activity data, and we also collect kill sites to get information about the prey composition and the prey predation rate. And we also collected roadkills. Up to now, we have 800 roadkills, which we also use for different analysis. Yeah, what we are working on, that's basically also conservation ecology, because we have this variation of data across Europe. You see here some of our, I'm looking for the pointer. You see here some of our study sites. So the focus is in Scandinavia. That's because there are more lynx. In Central Europe, you just have a few lynx populations. They also stem from reintroduction. And Julian Oeser, he was also a PhD student in the EUROLYNX. He created a pan-European habitat map, which is which is now a very important foundation for lynx conservation, and that will be used for all kinds of applications, like for ecological applications, for research, but also for practical applications like securing connectivity of lynx populations in Europe. Yeah, then Lucia Ripari and Joe, they also did an analysis of habitat selection. This is also, of course, special, because before, every single study site had some research on how the lynx use their habitat and how they select their habitat. But now these two were able to show what is the core of habitat selection, what is the core of habitat requirements for the lynx, not just for a single study site, but across ecological gradients in Europe, where we found, for example, that there is a consistent avoidance of roads, a consistent avoidance of settlements. They select for high NDVIs and also for medium to high tree cover densities in their home ranges. Yeah, and then that was also a very important work, also a long-lasting work, hard job, because Joe looked at the survival of Eurasian lynx in the human-dominated landscapes. And one major finding was that illegal killing is the main cause of mortality through Europe and through the different population. So it changes a little bit between the population. In some, it's really worse, like in the Bohemian forest ecosystem. The lynx, the spread of the population is really hindered by illegal killing. And the interesting part was also that Joe found that even if there is legal hunting, there's still a lot of illegal killing. And also we found that the lower survival is correlated with human modification, where we used the human footprint and human modification index to represent that. Yeah, and then also in the conservation ecology, we have ongoing projects. Now we will update the habitat selection by using hidden Markov models to not just be able to see where the lynx are, but also what the lynx are doing there. We are looking at the drivers of reintroduction success. So a master student looked at the different reintroduction programs we had in Europe and tried to figure out what are the important factors for success. We look at post-release behavior of orphan lynx. We have a lot of data also from this released population, which will be analyzed. And we look at how lynx deal with movement barriers, because this is a huge problem in Europe, because we have a lot of roads, highest road density, where also lynx are living, and we try to get that information into an IBM. I will show you later about that. We are predicting the lynx vehicle collision risk so that we can predict the risk for different roads across the different countries, which is also an important basis for planning of roads, but also for mitigating problems. And we are also looking, but the social science is still a little bit underdeveloped. We're looking also at public perceptions and attitudes toward Eurasian lynx, especially because of these high illegal killings. Also, ecology and evolution plays a big role. This was a work led by Jenny Mattison, also formerly working in Norway. And by collecting the data across Europe, we were able to look at timing and synchrony of birth and also the survival of the kittens. This was important to show how flexible are lynx in regard to global change. Also a work also led by a master student that's also impressive, also published in Oikos, how the lynx behave, like the variability in movement and foraging behavior during the denning season, to see how big are the areas, how big is the impact on the prey base close to the denning site. And we look at the social interactions, because we figured out that the lynx are not as asocial as we think. And so we use the telemetry data over the gradient to look at interactions between males and females in their home ranges. We look at excursions of Eurasian lynx during the mating season. And also a very important work is the age-specific reproductive patterns, to see how will the reproduction or the reproduction change with the age of the females, which is also an important, which will be also an important result for modeling and for the understanding of lynx ecology. And we also look at what are shaping the home ranges of the animals. Then predation ecology is important, because illegal killings are mostly motivated by hunters, and the competition between lynx and hunters for the same prey. So in Central Europe, that's basically a roe deer. And the local hunters, they like to hunt roe deer, and the lynx, they kill roe deer. And that's the reason why a lot of hunters do not like lynx and remove the lynx illegally with all kind of methods. Like it's like shooting. We also had lynx which were poisoned, and so it's a big problem how to deal with these illegal actions, because a lot of small populations, especially in Central Europe, they are really restricted by illegal actions. Yeah, and therefore Teresa Oliveira she looked at the predation rate and the foraging parameters of Eurasian lynx on a continental scale. So looking at the interkill interval of the population, which is pretty similar, and also how the human modification changes the handling time. So the higher the human modification, the lower is the handling time, and the lower is the usage of the different kill sites. And for that, Teresa developed a method to determine the kill sites uh, with the help of a cluster analysis. So she trained the algorithms with about 4,000 kills, which we have in our database, and afterwards used that statistical models to predict the kill sites of the animals where we have no data from. Yeah, and we also cooperate across the different networks. This is a work from Benedict Gehr, and he looked at the site familiarity to reduce predation risk. And he basically found that the roe deer are killed in places at the edge of their home range. So basically, if the roe deer know their home range very well, like in the core of their home range, then the chance of a lynx to kill them is lower than at the edges of the home range. So the better the roe deer knows a place, the lower is the chance of being killed by a lynx. Yeah, and then also monitoring and methods plays a big role. There's also the idea so that not everybody reinvents the wheel. So to join our forces to develop methods that's like here in species identification or individual identification. We built a database where we have a lot of pictures of lynx with both flanks, which can be used to train AI models for individual identification. This is a work led by the University of Erlangen by Matthias Zürl and Stefano Palmero. He is optimizing, so it's like difficult to explain, but he is trying to optimize the camera trap monitoring. So he is doing simulations about how many camera traps are needed, how should they be distributed to reduce the effort while keeping the quality of the monitoring. Yeah, and a lot of what I showed you is coming together in that in a spatially explicit individual-based model, which was launched by Stefanie Kramer-Schad. So she's working in Berlin in the Institute of Zoo and Wildlife Research. And we bring together what we know about the road network and the habitat. So like the habitat model we produced for whole Europe, that is one basis for the model. The next basis is the model about the road collisions or the collision probability. We bring in the data about the lynx populations, like from the camera trap monitoring, and there's a fourth component that's the lynx ecology. So we bring in the reproduction, mortality, dispersal, and territory establishment. And all this data is coming from the field efforts across a wide ecological gradient. And with that model, Joe at the moment is trying to calculate different scenarios for the lynx populations in Central Europe, for the meta population, because sometimes they are not really connected. We have a loss in genetic variability. And with this model, we can simulate the effect of reintroduction. We can simulate the effect of assisted migration or dispersal. And this is really a core. Yeah, so also we reach out to networks of other phalids. And this is the 4Lynx initiative. As you know, there are 4 lynx species around the world. It's the bobcat, it's the Canadian lynx, the Iberian lynx, and the Eurasian lynx. And they have multitude of conservation realities, and we try to compare the spatial ecology. And we reached out to the colleagues in North America, in Spain, and now have about 1,000 lynx in the database without the EUROLYNX, but 1,000 animals from bobcat, Canadian lynx, and Iberian lynx, which Anais Lazzarotto, she's doing her PhD on that topic, will compare the different spatial ecologies of these species. Yeah, and we also support, probably also the Snow Leopard Network supported that work from Bill Fagan and Justin Calabrese about the reliance of different felids on travel routeways. So this is also something where we support also cross-taxa analysis with our data. What we are working on, EUROLYNX plays a big role also for training students because we can provide data to students. And this is Stefano, so who did the spatial analysis. And in total, it's now 4 different PhD students, which basically worked with the EUROLYNX data, and also even some master students really published work based on the databases which we provide. Yeah, technicalities. How do we cooperate in our network? And so basically, the data belongs to the data owner. So EUROLYNX has no data ownership. Each group has the full right to decide on the data. And it works like if someone of the network has a project idea, like we want to calculate the habitat map across Europe, then they normally connect me or Joe and write a pager. And this pager, this is a project proposal. So it's an outline of a project about habitat selection, for example, or wildlife vehicle collisions. And then this pager is circled via our mailing list or presented at one of our workshops. And then the members can decide if they provide data. So we will not use any data without the confirmation of the data owner. This is a really important foundation of the network. And all the data owners have to agree actively to be a partner in a different project. And they can also, even if they have no data, they can also join as in the working group, because like for each pager, for each project idea, we form a working group, and everybody who is interested in a topic can contribute to that working group, basically scientifically. Yeah, and these working groups, they have regular meetings. They are online because we are distributed across Europe. They meet and discuss like the data analysis. They discuss about data availability. They discuss the results. And after the whole group has a consensus about the results, then it's not possible to withdraw data, because that would be unfair if someone provides the data to an analysis and then at the end he is not satisfied with the results. Of course, they have to be scientifically rigid and good. It's not allowed to withdraw the data anymore. And then, of course, everybody who's involved, the data owners and also the working group members, they have to approve the submission as in any other publication. But this is the point. So we have the database, the central database, but the data ownership remains with the different groups. And if someone wants to go for a project, he has to write an outline, and then all the data owners can decide if they join the project or not. And they also have the possibility to join a project also like just in the working group. Yeah, and then we have the working group leaders. They are responsible for the whole process, and they are mostly, the working group leaders are postdocs or PhD students. They are leading the draft of the pager. They document the consensus of the data owners. They are responsible for the regular meetings. They hold the contact to related working groups to prevent also overlay between different questions and outlines. That's normally there's no problem, but sometimes you have working groups which have similar topics. So we have to coordinate that there's no overlay in the output. They have to present the results in the meetings where we have also working groups, working group meetings where they can discuss the results. And they have also to take care that all the co-authors have given consensus to the manuscript and also agree with the research, and then also that all co-authors are involved. Yeah, so this is the end of my talk. So feel free to ask any questions.
Huge thank you, Marco. That was very inspiring. What you've already used the data for, the level of collaborations, the PhD students, a lot in there that is very relevant to us. So before we go to questions, and I'd like to encourage everyone to write any questions in the chat for Marco, I would like to just pass it on to Joe, who is also here and who's the curator, if you have anything to add and
Yeah,
share.
sure. Yeah, thank you. Marco was very thorough, so I don't have so much to add, but I just wanted to mention the database is sort of a central instrument for us for working together because the data curators, we screen the data in a consistent way and then make it available for these different projects, depending on the agreement of the different data owners. But we also provide storage space online in the cloud if people need it, or we just help with the day-to-day running by making communication easier among the different members. And with that in mind, I think one thing to emphasize is really the importance of the personal relationships that we've built with the different members through our meetings, but also online and via email, just that we have now got to a point that we know pretty much everyone very well, and there's a strong foundation of trust, which really helps everything and can bring forward the research and therefore the conservation of lynx. And I think that's really important.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, I think trust definitely, especially when sharing data. So maybe I'll just start the discussion. So Marco, can you remind us when the EUROLYNX actually started? When, and so how many years it's been active? And when it was first established, what was the first thing that the team prioritized to make it? Because you've already achieved so much. But what did you guys start? What was the seed that got you going?
Yeah, we are now in the 9th year. So next year we will have 10-year celebration. And in the beginning, it was basically Joe's PhD work. And we invited, of course, like all the Lynx people, they also know each other. And there were already meetings like for the conservation of lynx. And then basically we invited the different groups to the Bavarian Forest National Park. And we spent some time in a hut doing barbecue and stuff. And after all that meeting and the discussion of Joe's work, we decided to form the EUROLYNX group.
Wow, so basically SLN has to organize a big barbecue in a forest or
Yeah.
maybe a non-forested snow leopard habitat area.
Yeah.
Great. And so you've both mentioned trust a lot already. So other than coming together in person, getting to know each other, are there other things that has, especially around sensitive data, that has helped with the trust of having a curator taking care of that data? Can you talk on that just again?
Will you talk on that, Joe, or should I?
I can start. I think it was really useful to have the examples from EuroDeer before us. So it was already known that it could work for a different species, and that was important. And otherwise, Yeah, I can't think of anything else specific apart from like the first outputs were really like the acid test, if it would work. And that was like the proof of concept then. And going forward, people can then see it does work. And we had an output and we were happy with the process, I think. And basically, when a new student comes along and we have to integrate them into the network, we just really try and instill the open lines of communication that they should always contact people if they have questions and at every step of the journey. Marco, you might have something to add there.
Yeah, and I think there was also a big demand for meetings. So all the EUROLYNX members are keen to meet each other once a year. And also like the meetings, they grew. Like maybe we started with 40 people in the beginning. And last year we had about 100 participants in the meeting in Belgium. And so we don't hope that it will become bigger because it's very difficult to handle. But there's a huge demand for exchange because all the groups they have similar also research questions. They have similar conservation issues which have to be discussed and coordinated. And this is really important to have this exchange and also to prevent this double work. I think this is very important. So to join the forces to make comprehensive research. And then, of course, what is very difficult is also to get funding because nobody wants to fund databases. So we are struggling with that. We have some foundations which support us, but that's also limited. We have a company, Vectronic, which is supporting the central database with some donations each year. And the whole effort for the annual meetings is on the local groups. So basically, the local group or a local group invites us. So this year we will be in Macedonia, and the Lynx researchers and conservationists there, they invite us and they support like the meeting rooms. They organize also accommodation, but every group has to pay, of course, the traveling and also the accommodation and living costs by themselves. But the whole organization is done by a local group. And we never had problems to find a group which will host the EUROLYNX meeting because all of these meetings are also connected with some policy. Because, for example, last year we were in Belgium. They are preparing also habitat or reintroduction scenarios because they want to get the lynx back to Belgium. And so if we meet in a country, they get also publicity, and sometimes even ministers come to EUROLYNX and support the work for the local NGOs or conservationists.
Thanks, Marco. Yeah, that's very practical insights. SLN also, we struggle with finding funding to support in person. So it's always a constant challenge. So I'm going to move on now. We have a number of questions coming in the chat. A lot of them are also ecological questions about some of the different projects. And let's see, Marco, if Joe, if hopefully you'll be able to answer, or even Orion. The first one is from Palak. He's trying to understand, are you understanding space use patterns of lynx through occupancy with environmental covariates?
Yeah, so we did not go into occupancy. So we used just the GPS data and did not introduce as like with classic methods like home range analysis with resource selection functions and step selection functions. That's what we did. So we did not go like for occupancy modeling with camera trapping at the moment. But I'm not sure if the occupancy modeling was meant for the telemetry data or for occurrence data.
Maybe more camera trapping or sign surveys.
Yeah, so we are not working, so we did not collect this observational data.
Okay.
So our core is still what I showed. It's GPS data, VHF data, telemetry data. It's dead found animals. And it's also camera trap data, but in a way that we have camera trap data focused for lynx monitoring. So we have a certain scheme where we put out the cameras in a certain grid to count the animals, because also the lynx is you can have individual recognition, and then we use Secker methods to count the number of animals.
Thanks. So, okay, so just to remind everyone, EUROLYNX is very much based on collaring data primarily, then also kill, death sites, and then some camera trapping data to do population estimates. Is that right, Marco?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then to the next question, Aliana is asking about disease. She hasn't seen any questions focused on disease dynamics. Is this something you plan to do in the future?
Like disease is an important topic in our EuroWildCat network, because there are a lot of diseases are transferred from domestic cats to the wildcat. And also hybridization is a problem there. We also have a handbook for sampling the different viral diseases from cats. But for the lynx, we did not go into that topic so far, because there are also some veterinarians working on that. And disease is not, I would say it's not so an important topic. So you have marsh in some lynx populations, but in general, it's not a big topic, not comparable to, Joe?
We have one new proposal about monitoring scabies using camera trap data, but this is in the early stages at the moment.
That's true.
Great, thank you. And then we're back at trust. Flavia is asking about trust. She's wondering about any governance mechanisms or agreements that helped build that trust barrier early on, especially if there are GPS data or other sensitive data to help people collaborate.
Basically, we have a so-called terms of use. And this is the agreement how we want to collaborate. And there, everything is described, how the network works, that the data ownership still remains with the different groups, that no data can be provided to third persons without permissions, and how like the interpretation of the data and the analysis of the data works, and how we collaborate. And therefore, we have this document called Terms of Use, which have to be signed by each group so that they agree with that.
Right. Okay. That would be really interesting to see. Maybe if we can join and get access to it, that would be really nice to see. And I think that brings on the next question that might is relevant by Sharon from Nepal. He's asking if there are challenges in credit to different contributors. So how is this managed, especially with equal or similar contributions of many individuals or even organizations?
Yeah, basically, of course, the one who's doing most of the work is the first author of a paper, and it's normally like a PhD student, and then next is the working group. So if there's a working group which are more intense in the data analysis, data interpretation, they are following like the first author. And just the data contributors, they are normally like in the sequence of authors, they are coming after the working group. And this is basically how we deal with that. And of course, it's difficult because we have the different partner groups. And we say to have no problems, that each group decides who contributed in a meaningful way to be a co-author. So like, especially data acquisition, it's very difficult to say how much anybody contributed. And so we say, if there's a group, for example, from Grimsø, and they provide data, then Grimsø has to say who has contributed in the data acquisition process to be listed as a co-author.
Great. And this is all in the terms of use as well? Or is this just
Yeah, this is just like, let's say, good research practice, so that the people who contribute more, like the working group, they are in the sequence, in the beginning of the sequence, and the data, just the data providers, they are coming later. And yeah, but this is
Typically, we've this group of data providers who were not in the working group directly. We listed them alphabetically because we didn't want to get into weighing up the importance of how many animals you colored and stuff like this. It becomes too personal, too political, too. It's also then very biased towards countries with more funding or more animals. And while this could be fair in some ways, it's also unfair in other ways. So the data owners are normally listed alphabetically.
Yeah, that was a discussion in the beginning. So we had a discussion if someone provides 50 links, if he has to be moved to the front of the data contributors. But then, as Joe said, we decided that, yeah, we do that alphabetically.
Oh, that's really good input. So you see, Oriane, even if you've colored all the snow leopards, you are not first author automatically. Okay, so we have another question from Oliver. He asked about data types, which I think you've already mentioned, Marco, but you can repeat, and about the type of camera trap data. So across the snow leopard range, our coloring data is actually quite limited. I mean, there are a few pockets, but there's a lot of camera trap data, and especially with the population assessment of the world's snow leopards. So it'd be interesting if you could share a little bit more about this camera trap data. How is it stored? Is it actual images? Is it just the metadata? I think that would be really valuable.
Yeah, the camera trap data, it's so there's also something like a EuroCam branch where the data can be stored. And so we developed 2 years ago a camera trap data standard. It's CamTrap DP. And the data should be stored according to that standard, which can facilitate the exchange of camera trap data. So this is a core, but in EUROLYNX it's more like that the groups are working with the systematic camera trapping, like like the terrain is easier as in the snow leopard habitat, and so we distribute them equally across an area to catch, have enough cameras in the female home ranges and do that for a certain amount of time. And we have optimized these time frames. And so this camera trap data is at the moment not stored in the databases. Just some data is stored in the EuroCam database. And so camera trap data is still the question where to go, because there are also a lot of camera trap database infrastructures. I think well known is Wildlife Insights from the US, and probably some also of you store the data there. In Europe, we have Agouti from the University of Wageningen. That's a camera trap management system. We use Trapper as a data management system, and then each group stores the camera trap data in their database. But with this standard, the camera trap DP standard, we can export the data and then combine the different data sources from the different groups to do analysis.
Very interesting. I think we need to have further discussion about this, Marco, but I'll let Oliver maybe follow up with you, because I think he's helping support PAWS, and that sounds very interesting. I don't think something we have explored yet. So worth following up for snow leopards. I see more questions coming in, so I'm just gonna go ahead. Another more ecological questions that might be interesting for you both, from Ladakh, India, by Jigmet, asking, saying that we have only a few Eurasian lynx left, and they are under threat due to road development and prey loss. How can I contact you to seek guidance and suggestion for their research and conservation efforts?
I would say send me an email, or us an email, and then we can discuss about what is possible.
Great. I'll also say you can write to Reki, and Reki can put you in touch. Jigmet, feel free to write to them. Now over to Denise. is a perfect platform to do comparative research on all these EUROLYNX populations and different lynx subspecies. So she's just very happy to be a network member and contributor. So I think you've got a fan there in the public. So that's good to know. As SLN, you guys have happy members. Okay, now over back to Flavia. She's asking if EUROLYNX imposes any standardization on data collection, or did you develop analytical methods that handle this messiness of separate data sets?
Maybe Joe, that would be
Yeah,
for you.
we have no strict requirements for the data. So if we're talking about GPS color data or VHF color data, we just initially we wanted people to get involved, so we take everything basically, and then it's up to the leader of each pager to make sure that how they use the data is in a way that fits to their analysis. So they might need to standardize it, or maybe they can use more sophisticated methods and use different fixed rates, for example, within one analysis. But that's we first collect everything, and then it is up to the working group leaders to decide how to use it or if they can use it. I think that's the key point.
Maybe you can also say something about data standardization, because like we have a sophisticated protocol to process the data, so that the quality is guaranteed.
What is standardized, is this screening process. So some data owner will send us the data based on some templates, and that contains then the metadata about the animals, about the deployment of colors, about the color, and about the capture, and then separately just the raw GPS data table. And the data curators, it's our job to screen this in a standardized way so that we can say all the data in the database has been through the same process. And if we have a location that's flagged as being unlikely, maybe an animal traveled too fast, too far, it's likely to be an outlier location, an error from the color, then this is the same for every animal that's in the database, this kind of screening. And then also there's checks that we make to make sure that the data makes sense. The metadata have to make sense, like the deployment always ends after it started, and an animal cannot have two colors at once, and this kind of thing. So that there's a standardized data screening to make the research much quicker at the start instead of having to repeat this process every time.
That's very useful. Yeah, go ahead, Orion.
And you also have templates, right? So that people actually fill in everything in the same way. So you don't have to decrease the messiness. So you actually have like the columns in the same.
Yeah, exactly. So we hope and we ask that the data providers fill out the templates of the metadata, but we've also, for groups that have really low capacity and they just don't have the time, we try and work with what they can send us. And then if we have questions, we follow it up.
Yeah, that's very useful to save time. But I'm sure a big headache for you, Joe.
Yeah,
but
it can be sometimes, but it's okay.
It's okay. We have another very interesting question for the snow leopard range, something I mentioned to you, Marco and Joe. It's about data management and storage. Is the data centrally managed or stored, or is the data remain exclusively with the owners? Because we have to deal with sometimes geopolitical sensitivities that affect data sharing between countries. So if you don't have this challenge, how could one potentially address such a challenge?
Yeah, so basically, we have one central database, which makes life easier. And decentralized database could be just like maybe to clone the database, to have the same database in different countries, so that data exchange. But I think the problem is also data exchange. And this is very difficult if you want to go for analysis of snow leopard along a certain ecological gradient. And if parts of the gradient are in the country, then it will be difficult to do an analysis across the border. And I think this is probably the challenge, how to deal with that.
Yes, I think you would need to maybe, find either do part of the analysis in one country and then part in another country and share analytical tools potentially, or find ways like that. Because sometimes some of the data needs to stay in one country and analyzed even in that country. Or there's maybe ways to also work on metadata. The actual metadata might be okay to share, but not the actual physical GPS data. So I think, we could, but that would be a big challenge for SLN if we were to do something like this, and it'd be something we need to maybe start slow, where members contribute in a way that is legally allowed, and we could then find out solutions over time. So we still have some questions, so I'm just gonna move on to the next question. There's another question from Jigmet asking if they can join the EUROLYNX, and they're based in Ladakh, India, and they're willing to collect field data, though they feel that there could be challenges on connectivity and funding.
Yeah, so they are highly welcome to join our network, but it's like so we basically run the databases and the data curatorship, and we try to get PhD funding in to do data analysis and also to do sometimes field work. But basically each group is doing their own field work, and so we have no funding so that someone can apply for a project. That would be nice if you have a big pot of money and can say, yes, that would be the perfect project for Lynx ecology. So we need that because this is our research gap, and then we could provide some funding. Unfortunately, we cannot do that.
Yeah, so it's often self-funded teams or so on that also
Yes, yeah.
fund their
So maybe
participants.
in future we will find a rich sponsor to support such things. But I think you are also searching for such a sponsor.
Yeah. It's hard for networks.
Funder, yeah.
And then another question regarding funding, especially related to students. There's a question on how do you find funding for PhD students? Is it available, or is it based on international collaborations?
Yeah, so like every group has its own national funding systems, which they try to seek, where they try to seek for money. And for example, we have some international possibilities in Germany with the German Academic Exchange Service. So they fund scholarships for 3 to 4 years. So we tried, we have some applicants which want to go for such stipends, and we support them in writing their proposals. That's some for international collaboration. There are also other foundations where we try to get money, or like if we succeed with a project proposal to bring students in project proposals, student positions.
Great, thank you so much, Marco and Joe. I think we have addressed most of the questions in the chat, but if I'm wrong, please, can someone please take the mic or the camera or write in the chat to ask any other questions? Before, I think we're almost at the hour. Do you guys have any last suggestions on if SLN were to embark on such an endeavor? 12 countries, a huge area, a lot of camera trap data, some coloring data. What would be the first 3 steps that we should go about? Is it about deciding the collaboration governance? Is it about maybe having a barbecue, building trust, or is it just deciding some research questions to collaborate on?
I think you already have a network, and I think the people know each other. And I would say make a meeting somewhere and discuss that. and to see if there's enough trust to bring the data together, discuss how data can be brought together. I think that would be my suggestion. And that's how we did it. And say, yes, we invite, and then we discuss if this would be an option.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's worth keeping in mind that the data storage is a useful tool that we have in the network, but it's not. We would still be able to be a network doing research together without it. It just makes life easier. And if you have different data and different questions that don't, or different restrictions that mean you can't have a centralized database, is the challenge, but it doesn't mean it can't work.
Yeah, and actually, thank you, Joe, for reminding us. Even if we don't have a central database, that's actually one of the goals of a journal that many of our members are aware of. And I'm going to just do a little pitch. Snow Leopard Reports exists. It's a journal where we try to encourage Snow Leopard Network members to collaborate on. And one example is actually the comparison of snow leopard body sizes from different teams having done collaring across the range. And it was just a simple paper that was brought together. And I'm not sure how they decided the author list, maybe by number of snow leopards collared. But anyway, it was published in Snow Leopard Reports with the Snow Leopard Network. So we encourage other papers like that. They don't need to be just site-based research. We also encourage collaborative research where data can be shared. So please do consider that as a first step, members here, and maybe we can look with Byra, our executive director, see if we can find funding to bring people together, potentially even at the Asia SCB meeting in Nepal. With Surin, who's there, and others, maybe we can meet in Kathmandu and have further discussions. But let's see. We have a steering committee meeting with the Snow Leopard Network in March, and we will take this conversation forward there. But if any other members have further ideas, please do get in touch with the steering committee. But before we end, is there anything you want to add, Orion? I mean, you had the wonderful idea and you saw the idea of how we could potentially do some more as a Snow Leopard reports. Yeah. Orion, go ahead.
No, thank you, Justine, and thank you, Marco and Joe. Super nice presentation. I was thinking, well, two things. I agree, these templates and terms of use and all these, they must be key to making it work. So maybe we can approach you again and ask for help later. Would that be okay?
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And for this, like the issue that it is impossible for many to maybe share data, but do you think, let's say we set up a database with just the metadata, and then perhaps we can have one with data that is well, from countries where you can actually share. So there is a sample. Then could a working group, you know how much there is, so you can assess, is it actually possible to do this ID we have, and then you can develop the analysis and everything with the existing data, and then, well, as you suggested, Justine, maybe share the R code or so to the groups that can't share their data. Could you see that working, or do you see any challenges with that?
Yeah, I think we have to think on how to do that. But I think, as Joe said, it is important that the people want to collaborate, and then there will be a way how to do that, also across these difficulties which are in some countries. So I think there will be a possibility. I don't know straightforward now how to do that. And because you need somehow a data table to run the analysis. And the question is but I think there will be a solution if you have two data tables with the same analysis methods and to bring that together. I think that might be possible somehow.
Yeah, that's true. We'll have to think it through, but then also, like the amazing paper that you mentioned in Snow Leopard Reports, Justine, we employ the same tactic. So authors are listed in alphabetic order, except the first who wrote it.
Okay, it's good. Good to know that best practices from EUROLYNX are used by Snow Leopard reports. Yes, so, and as Marco mentioned, anyone working on Eurasian Lynx or other information, please do get in touch with their network. They're also looking, Asia is an understudied area on the species, and especially I know in Mongolia, where I'm based, we could do so much more on Eurasian Lynx. So I think it would be interesting to exchange more there too. That's another win-win for the two networks. So I hope we keep these discussions going. Yes, so thank you so much.